I keep saying, I kept saying when we were watching the president's press conference, he's declared martial law. We give people some time to get in here so that we can have a conversation about what exactly does that mean when I start talking about martial law. Uh, ooh, you know, we lost Ahmaud Arbery to senseless, reckless acts of violence by small Peter, pointy hood hiding, 3K card carrying, melanin lacking clear folks who ride around wreaking havoc. The mob that lynched him, much like they did in 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And then we had George Floyd. We were still trying to wrap our minds around like that's possible about Ahmaud Arbery, only to find out that George Floyd would have a knee pressed upon his neck until he took his very last breath, begging and pleading for help. 5 police officers there, and all of which felt that it was the right thing to do. You know, my children were asking me, why did they kill him? And, you know, they understand when I say because he's black. But in this particular instance, they're looking at the video. They're seeing this man who is completely docile. And they're like, but why? You know, like, why were the police called? And you know, we have this alleged $10 bill, then it was a $20 bill that's counterfeit. Okay, that does not warrant death. I mean, there are penalties of law for counterfeit monies. Therefore, you know, a hanging in the square is not necessary. But then the United States went completely haywire, nuts. Like there were protests in all 50 states, including Alaska and Hawaii, for George Floyd. And we kind of lost sight of Ahmaud Arbery. We kind of lost sight of the fact, and not intentionally, it's just the egregiousness and the horror that we saw this man's life taken really kind of messed us up. And so we just kind of pivoted towards the whole George Floyd murder, kind of leaving Ahmaud Arbery and the work that still needs to be done in Glenn County, Georgia, kind of hanging out there. Not to mention the fact that we have a corrupt police force, a task force, the drug enforcement agency within the police force, if you will, not necessarily DEA, but their version of narcotics, completely disbanded because of the corruption. So not only were all the police officers moved around and placed on leave because Casada, the police officer, was forcing 2 informants to have sex with him. And they won't say if they're men or women. So we're dealing with that. We're dealing with the fact that 3 district attorneys passed up an opportunity, and I'm calling it an opportunity because when you want to make things right, then you seek out opportunities. You do your own little SWOT analysis, if you will, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You look at the threat to not doing something. You leave these murderers on the street and you invoke a hurt people to take action, you know, but I guess maybe they don't do SWOT in Glenn County, Georgia. You know, but to me, that's a simple thing you do, an analysis of pros and cons. But who am I to know what law enforcement is supposed to do when a man is senselessly murdered? Then while we're trying to wrap our minds around the corruption, the police chief has been removed from office, facing indictment. The other officers who were in collusion and cahoots with this narcotics sting operation in which these informants felt that they did not have a choice but to sleep with Casada. I mean, like, this is reading like a movie, right? And then Not only is all this going on, and Ahmaud Arbery is gunned down because they decide that he doesn't have a right to jog in the neighborhood, his neighborhood, mind you. And another police chief is put into office, and he ends up marching with the people. Then the GBI comes in, and then they say, "Oh, okay, whoopsie daisy, we better do something." George Floyd. The country decides riot, protest. I'm sorry. The country decides to protest. The protests start in Minneapolis, Minnesota, because that is where George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin. We find out that Derek Chauvin is married to a woman that appears that, of Asian descent, because we're looking at her brother, the wind-up doll Tao Tao, who keeps doing the two-step, trying to stop you from filming Chauvin murder George Floyd. And so in my mind, when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking to myself that Chauvin does not consider himself a racist. And the other white people who were there as they were assisting in his murder. So they are contributing factors, accessories to the murder. They don't consider him a racist. Because, a lot of times white people do not know that they're racist. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. But in Derek Chauvin's case in particular, since he does not sleep white, he believes he is right. So then we find out that Derek Chauvin and Mr. Floyd knew each other from the club. Now, the club owner says that Chauvin was very comfortable on Latin night, but was very uncomfortable on R&B night, and would often call for backup police officers on R&B night, whether it was necessary or not. He did not do that on Latin night. So that tells me a couple of things. Let's unpack that, because we are going to get to these riots, and we are going to get to the orangutan running the 3 ring circles from the Oval Office. But what I know now is that Chauvin did not view Hispanics as a threat. He didn't view them as a threat because he felt like he could take them down, he could beat them. But he was insecure and inadequate around Black people. The reason he and other white people who share his mentality and this philosophy about Black people, the reason that he was uncomfortable is because we are supposed to be better, superior. Now, they try to beat us down, even on the globe and the map, they try to make Africa smaller, when the fact of the matter is that North America, Brazil, and half of Eurasia would fit into Africa, because it wasn't until later that part of Europe into Asia, that was all Africa, and then they chopped it up. Remember when we talked about it in school? The Bering Strait? Okay, maybe I'm going too far. So, and all I'm simply saying is, over time, continents have moved further apart, but they used to be closer together. Okay, that's a history lesson. Y'all know I love history. Let me not digress. Let me stay on task, because I'm upset. And when I'm upset, my mind goes 100 miles per minute, rather. See? So now, when they tell us we're less than, they shrink our continents, 54 countries in the continent of Africa. So, it's not dwarfed by North America, and certainly not South America. So they have this mentality that has been perpetuated by media hysteria, which is propaganda. And by that, I mean, Trayvon's fighting for his life and is shot because he's getting the better of George Zimmerman, because, he was just a punk flashlight cop, wanted to be something he couldn't, too much RoboCop watching or something. And so he tries to take on Trayvon, and he gets beat up. And so he grabs his gun and he shoots it. But the media creates this hysteria that where we see him with the money showing his grill. It's a stupid kid. But they want you to understand this is the totality of this kid's makeup. This is who he is. Same thing with Mike Brown. They showed you with Mike Brown with a gold grill on, and it wasn't until later we saw him in his cap and gown, because the point is to dehumanize Black people so that the acknowledgement of our humanity is not readily accepted. So when people like Derek Chauvin, who do not consider themselves racist, and other people don't consider themselves racist because why? Because they don't sleep white, so they must be right in all of their other actions and cannot possibly be racist. Not to mention the fact that racism has different degrees and levels. So Derek Chauvin sees George Floyd and sums him up. And this is how I describe it to my children. He sees him, he sums him up. This magnificent black beast, because the darker your skin, the more of a threat you are to white people. These stereotypes that they have bought into create their prejudices, would ultimately have tenets and tones of racism. That racism is what allows him to think that he is justified by putting his knee on Derek Floyd's neck while he's screaming and hollering, I can't breathe, because it is believed if I take my knee off of his neck, where I am crippling him, when he gets up, he'll get the better of me, because I know that I cannot handle him, because I am aware of my inadequacies. That is what all of this is about. When white people do these things. Eric Garner, you remember the police officer jumped up and put his arm around his neck. Because there is this belief that we are superior, and then they try to dwarf that belief by brutalizing us. It's a plantation mentality that we are seeing play out on social media. So Chauvin, with his hands in his pocket, with his knee on George Floyd's neck, is basically posing for a picture. And even though the wind-up doll, Chow, who happens to be his brother-in-law, because Chauvin is married to his sister, remember I said because he doesn't sleep white, he thinks he's right. So he's doing the two-step, the little wind-up doll, trying to stop the camera from viewing the murder. But the reason his hands is in his pocket is because what Chow doesn't know is he is posing for a picture. The same way they pose for pictures when they pay money to go out and hunt an animal, a lion, a tiger, a rhinoceros, an elephant. Sarah Palin was shooting wolves from helicopters in Alaska. So there is no real challenge. They try to take away all of the challenge of the fight of the adversary, whether it's a human being or an animal, because they realize they are inept. Now, we all know that. But my point is that the hands in the pocket was posing for a picture the same way they do with a lion. See how superior I am. See how magnificent I am. I've slain this majestic beast that's supposed to be ferocious and terrifying. And that is how they view George Floyd, and that is how they view us. But unbeknownst to them, protests spark up all over the United States. So what do the white folks do? You guessed it. They then send the Ku Klux Klan, the neo-Nazis, that American Liberty is coming. All these neo-Nazi 3K card carrying, pointy hood hiding organizational members are dispatched throughout the United States to create chaos and havoc so that it's pointed at Black people. Now, what they weren't expecting, because they never get a full picture of what they're up against, because they believe delusionally that they can outwit us, that because there is a philosophy built on the fact that they can be superior. See, the goal is always to become superior, not that they actually are, because they do believe we're superior. If they didn't believe we were superior, they wouldn't be murdering us unarmed. If they weren't terrified of our majesty, they wouldn't do this. So the cowardice is one part, but it's also these stereotypes and these prejudices that they buy into. The stereotypes and the prejudices are so effective through the media that people buy completely into it. Now, here's what I mean. Let's say it is a singing contest between a white man and a Black man. Because the stereotype says that Black people are superior dancers and singers. Now, we all know all Black people can't dance and all Black people cannot sing. Okay, we all know that. But because that is the stereotype that they buy into, they will either lower the black man's mic or they'll lower his music so that he doesn't hear it as well, so that he may become pitchy or a little off key, or he's trying to catch up with the music, because they don't believe they're racist. They believe that they are equalizing or leveling the playing field so that the white man, who they believe in this particular instance is inferior to the black man singer, they want to fix that. That is the people who don't realize they're racist that come out. So now you got that group of people who are saying, okay, I'm going to go out here and protest because I'm not a racist. But they have tenets and tones and undertones of racism depending on what black person they encounter. Then you have the mischief makers. Those were the suburban white kids that Chief Renee Hall ended up admonishing, and we saw that on camera. One white girl was jumping up and down on a police cruiser. That's not us. Okay, but then you have Antifa. Antifa is not a right-wing extremist group. They are a left-wing extremist group. And they are against socialism, anarchy, and supposedly racism. So then you have Antifa battling against the Klan and the neo-Nazis and all of the factions of that, because the Klan is like a tree with many branches. They have all these different organizational groups. But what they were expecting, because I told you they're always trying to outwit us, was a black man named John Harrington, who is the chief of public safety in Minnesota. I think I said Harrison before, and I want to correct myself. It's Harrington, and I apologize. He came out and said, these people, the mayor Walt said 80% of the people are not from Minnesota. Harrington followed him up and said, and these people we have identified are from white supremacist groups. They weren't expecting that to get out. So now we know that the looting, the building burning, the rioting that is offshot from the peaceful protest of black people is now being created by these anarchists. So you say, okay, well, they're trying, because my thought was they're trying to weaken and dilute and diminish the message that we're getting out. Okay, well, all right. I mean, we saw white folks running through Target, baby. I mean, they were having a good old time. We even saw a man with a mannequin. He is going to do something lewd and lascivious to that mannequin, and they need to get that mannequin some help. They need to send some police cruisers over there for that mannequin, because that mannequin is going to have some very strange things done to it. That's all I'm going to say about that. What does the man need a mannequin for? But then we get blamed. So then black people are out here talking about, why are y'all looting? I'm not condoning looting. I'm not condoning stealing. But I liken it to Tupac, because Pac was telling us what's what way before he died. And what Pac said was, we are tapping on the door. We hungry. Give us something to eat. We're so hungry. And then the next generation is, we hungry. Give us something to eat. Give us something to eat. We hungry. We out here. Okay. And he's likening being hungry to the request for the demand for your humanity. Because we're not actually demanding it. We're requesting that we be allowed to demand it, in a sense. Because we protest and they beating us up and shooting us and killing us. And, so we're still requesting that we be able to demand. And then Pop goes further to say, and then we like, open this door. We hungry. Until we get to, which is where we are now, in the imagination of Pop. I'm Jimmy in the lock and I'm kicking in the door and everybody lay on the floor. Now we jackmen. Like we coming for you. That is what has happened. Because 50 states rallied together in protest for a man that yelled, "Mama, please." And they won. I saw sites where white folks were saying he was a punk. He was a baby Huey. If they had any soul, and I know all black folks don't believe, so I'm not talking to y'all. Y'all just skip this part. But I am a believer in the Most High God. So when you cross over, I truly believe, because I was there with my grandmother, just she and I, when she crossed over. Her eyes filled with wonderment, and she was catatonic before the eyes popped open. Okay, but that's not really what I want to talk about. What I really want to tell you is, I believe that you see your ancestors, and then folks come and get you. I believe he was crossing over and his mother was there. That's why he said, Mama, please help me. I believe he actually saw his mother because he was about to die and cross over. Now, I'm just gonna say that. So I wanna diminish this thing about being a punk and a baby Huey and these things, these terrible things that they're joking about because they don't have a soul. So and they lack the embodiment of a spirit. So they don't understand when the ancestors come and get you. But because of my melanated skin and my melanated mind, I understand that the ancestors are present. And he was able to see her in his time of need. So now we have 50 states. We have white supremacist groups. We have Antifa, which is the left. So that's why Trump, let me stop there. That's why Trump said Antifa and others. He don't want to say nothing about the Klan because the Klan supports him. The Klan is all over the Senate. Mitch McConnell is a Klansman. I believe they have given Trump an honorary hood. And that's why he has his tie so long and big and ridiculous looking, because actually he's hiding his pointy hood behind his tie. So that, because he's not one to really get all this stuff together before he leaves the West Wing. So when they leave and go to the meeting, he just pull it out from behind that big, fat, ugly tie. So they are all up and through, if you will, Congress and the Senate. And yes, I'm saying that out loud. Because we had, or I mean, we may still have, but the little fella who was the attorney general, well, we know he was a 3K card carrying, pointed hood, hiding, melanin lacking, clear folk. So here we are. George Floyd's death has sparked protests, riots all over, burning, looting, stealing. They can't blame us now because of social media. Shout out to the two black women that told the Antifa to look. Let me tell you something. In order to be an Antifa, you must not have to eat nothing. Now y'all know I'm a very little person. I'm little, but I am shaking. That's a fact. So that was some of the poorest white girls I have seen in my life. That girl was walking away. She looked like she was gonna fall apart anyway. But maybe she was afraid. So, because she was like, she said black folks told her to tag the star, but she was like, no, we don't want that, and we didn't tell you to do that. And so because that got filmed, the two brothers that were saying, look at these bricks, and he was saying this is a setup. So it was filmed now that these things are occurring that are outside of the scope of what we are trying to accomplish. So they can't deny that these forces are amongst us with the protesters. Okay, now, so Trump first told y'all you could just forget about that next stimulus check. He's just not gonna send y'all no money. He's like your daddy, and y'all little bad little kids, and you're going to have to get spanked. Okay. I just did a watch party for Donald Trump's press conference. I kept saying, oh my God, this is martial law, this is martial law, this is martial law. I talked to my girlfriend before I came on, but nobody else seemed to really understand or comment. I'm not gonna say they didn't understand. We're very intellectual people. They didn't comment. Martial law means that you stop all civilian law. So the Dallas Police Department, I live in Dallas, the Dallas Police Department is no longer in charge of executing city laws and ordinances. That also means that county law is suspended. So all of the civilian laws, the civil laws that you're experiencing today, they go away and military law comes into place. Now you're asking me, well, what exactly does that mean? I don't really know because I have never experienced martial law. Now, to give you an idea, martial law was enacted by Hitler for the Jews. So you didn't have the protection or the rights or privileges that you had previously. Not that black folks have a lot of that, but whether or not the police are going to stop you on your way to Whole Foods and kill you, yes, is a definite threat. But can you make it reasonably and make it home? Perhaps. Now that means that you're checking in with military, that they're telling you where you can go, when you can't go, what days you can shop. That would be an examples of military law. Now, I'm not saying that's what's about to happen. I'm not saying that. But I do believe that this is the introduction. The same way they eased us in stripping away all our rights with 9/11, this is where we are now. And so when Trump said that he had invoked all of civilians, that means people on the national that are in the reserves and the National Guards, he's dispatching them to all the cities who are experiencing this because, and this is how you get martial law, so look it up, because the municipalities that are supposed to be able to control people, in Dallas, like the city police and the county sheriffs, because they are overwhelmed. They can't do it. So when Tim Walz in Minnesota was saying, well, right now we have, I think it said 400 National Guards, but we need 2,500, and I've asked for some. Well, he slipped and said he was looking for 13,000. You need 13,000 National Guards? And I thought that was odd. I was like, oh, here we go. They're starting. This is martial law. Now Trump is saying, everybody, we're sending the National Guard. I am saying this is an introduction to martial law. He has not officially said, bam, martial law, but he did use the code words. Because, they like a lot of dog whistle terms, code words. Overwhelmed city governments. That is how you get martial law, because they can't do the job. He's going to stop the riots immediately. So now military law means that they will enact military justice on civilians. You now become, you have to succumb, acquiesce to what the military says. Let me tell you why this is important. Military law means, y'all check me, y'all fact check me, I don't have no problem with it. Military law means that the president is no longer in charge, and guess who is? FEMA. FEMA is in charge. Look it up. Today was a scary day because all of this set this in motion. There was no way for them to know that killing Floyd was going to create this reaction. But if they kept killing us, eventually it would. Because in Minnesota, my cousin sent it to me. It was just a sea of white people. I didn't see a dark-skinned face, brown face, black face, tan face, red face, yellow face, nowhere in the place. It was a sea. It had been 2,000 to 3,000 white people all on their knees in complete silence. You could have heard a rat tea on kite with their heads bent and their fists out. And the police were just, it was a sea of white people. Now, I don't know if they were expecting that. I also can tell you that Sean just sent me a video of a police cruiser parked at the curb. You see a white lady, a really badly built white woman. She looked like a busted can of biscuits, and she had a very short dress on, and you can see, never mind. I'm going to post it. She was tagging a building, BLM, Black Lives Matter, FTP, F the police. I could not see what they were tagging on the other side, but they were tagging a building's windows. And the police officer was standing there talking to them while they were doing. This is an orchestrated, concerted setup. My cousin, hey Jackie, just called me and asked me what was going on in Frisco because her husband and her daughter had gone to the protest. I said, call them back. It's a setup. There are 2 flyers in Frisco, Texas. One says, something, peaceful protest, blah, blah, blah. They mimic that same look, but it says, if you're tired, if you're fed up, I'm going to post it. And it says these things. I'll post it in the comments for you. And it's saying this to invoke, to agitate, to incite, which is illegal, mind you. Inciting a riot is illegal. So what the police ought to be doing is looking for who put out that fake flyer and making arrests. But that's not the goal. The goal is to have complete and total chaos and havoc so that martial law is warranted so that they can introduce us into military justice. Okay, y'all. I told you I would come on Friday, but it was so much happening. I had to talk to y'all today. And I don't know if something's gonna happen tomorrow. I might come on here tomorrow. Here's what needs to happen. I thought I had this wonderful plan, a plan of how I was gonna make them stop vilifying, bastardizing, and demonizing us, and start to work on having them see us as human beings. So that we benefit from the humanity that is afforded to our counterparts. Now I'm not so sure what next steps need to take place, but I can say this: stop protesting. Lord knows George Floyd's death deserves so much more, but stop protesting, because the protests are to allow for them to come in and then strip us of our rights and make us even more vulnerable to their hatred. So stop protesting. If you're going to Frisco, you're out there now, please share this. Please, please, please share this, y'all. Please share this. Please tell people, stop protesting. They're looking for ways to get us. And they figured out a way to do it with the orangutan who is clearly running a three-ring circus. Stop protesting. Let's take a step back. Let's revamp and let's figure out our next steps. Because I don't want to see anybody die protesting. A woman was shot in the belly. I understand why she was protesting, but you have to think about those things when you protest. And a pregnant woman should not be protested. Apparently, she and the baby are going to be fine. It was a superficial wound, but that's scary. That could have gone totally differently. Another brother was shot in the head with a rubber bullet. Blood was dripping. And here's the thing: it's a rubber bullet. You're saying, well, it's not going to kill. A rubber bullet can kill you if it hits you in the right place. It hits you in your temple. It can kill you. Something about in the nape of your neck, where your brain stem is, it can kill you. It can crack a rib. So don't be fooled by the rubber bullet thing. Just today, a Hispanic deaf man was murdered by two white police officers in Lancaster, California, or Lancaster, California. He could not hear them, did not know what they were saying, did not know what was going on. They shot him, killed him, and then after they realized he was deaf, they started trying to administer CPR, but he was already dead. So I'm starting to wonder if that was purposeful, if it was the intent to like create something to happen in Lancaster, California. Okay, so we have to be smarter than they think we are. And we are. The people that created thinking in an organized way, that created civilizations, astronomy, architecture, language, music, art. We are not dumb people. We can figure this out. But you're going to have to take a step back. You're going to have to back up from your outrage. And you have every right to be outraged. When people say, oh, you're so angry, this is righteous anger. Righteous anger. But you're going to have to take a step back. Because they are looking for ways to throw you in jail with the COVID. Because Trump is saying they're going to throw people in jail. Well, they're releasing people out of jail because of the coronavirus. They are looking for ways to justifiably kill you and get away with it. And under martial law, with the National Guard, with military justice, there will be no trial. I mean, because if it's a trial, it'll be a military court. You won't be going to your county courthouse. You won't have the benefit of appeal to a higher court in your state. There won't be federal court system that you can enter into and try to prosecute a police officer. Like, you're thinking, well, no state court, I'll just go to federal. No, it'll be military law. So we need to chill. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to give you some information. You can fact check me. Y'all can tell me you disagree, but make sure that you're not just disagreeing for the sake of disagreeing. Come with some substance, because I like to have real conversations. I'm starting to wonder. I don't believe in coincidences. My girl used to say coinky dinks. I don't believe in that. I actually posted on Stars that I thought that the imagery that they were using, advertisement of a movie, um, to come to their channel, it said it supposedly is 2, 3 weeks old. Perhaps I'm not arguing that. I don't know. So okay, I'll take that. But it was Tyrese and a black actress, and her name escapes me. And if you see it, you'll know who she is. And the name of the movie that they used to invite you to try their channel for 7 days free, and this is Stars channel. The name of the movie is Back the Blue. Now I'm smarter than the average bear, boo boo, and I am emotionally intelligent. With that being said, I said I thought it was odd that they would be using this imagery, and that George Floyd's death, even if it was before, required them to pull it down. Now, that's not my exact words. You know, I'm a lot more colorful with my language. But that's basically what I said. I had black folks and white folks telling me, one, it was a good movie. Who gives a shit? Sorry, mom. Um, and then two, because I hadn't seen it, I didn't have a right to say that. But here's the one I love. Three, it was just a movie. It didn't matter. Movies are art imitating life or mimicking life. We got a man that was murdered by the police. You put two black faces out there, and then you say back the blue. Just like when we say Black Lives Matter, they say Blue Lives Matter, and all lives matter. It is to saturate the message. I was like, 2 weeks ago, really? Was this? You know, I ain't go through and look because I was in a fight today. You know, like that happened several days ago. And it was like right after George Floyd's death when it came through my feed. I didn't see it 2 or 3 weeks ago. But nevertheless, it could have been there. But it came through my feed the day after George Floyd left, and I left this earth, excuse me, and I found it to be inappropriate and insensitive, and that's what I said. Well, then everybody wanted to pontificate on why I shouldn't feel the way I feel, and that's exactly what they do. They gang up on you and tell you your feelings are not valid. Listen, you melanated beauties out there, your feelings are valid because you feel them. Now, we don't all have to agree because we are three-dimensional. We don't all walk the same path. We're not supposed to. Just like we come in all shades and hues, we have all thinking capabilities and philosophies and idealisms. But let me say this. Don't give them any ammunition to water down our collective message. Let's make a vow to one another that we're not going to do. And look, here's my body. I'm gonna stop fighting people on social media, but I am gonna say I hate time today. Um, I know that black people are saying, you know, this looting, everything, it's embarrassing. When girl reached out to me from North Carolina, she said, look, it was black faces on the camera. Well, the media, I started out, that's why I started out telling you about the hysteria that they perpetuate through propaganda. So they didn't show any white people looting when she was watching. I'm not saying it didn't happen because I'm not in North Carolina. I'm taking this girl's word for it. But they didn't show looting, certainly not to her satisfaction, of white people. They only showed black people. I'm not saying black folks are not looting. I'm saying they're not the ones throwing the brick in the window. They're just the ones walking by saying, shoot, I'm sleeping on some tattered torn sheets. I'm underemployed or I'm unemployed. I haven't got my stimulus check yet. I haven't gotten an unemployment check yet. And yes, some people are still waiting on a paper stimulus check because they don't have direct deposit. Now, I understand some of the places like Cash App and Green Dot, they were trying to like leak information. But that information came out after Trump said if you had your information on record. There are a great deal of people still waiting on a paper stimulus check, and there are a great deal of people that are still waiting on unemployment checks, or money rather. You know, their card or money on their card or however it goes. So, with the nation being overwhelmed, just 2.1 million more people filed for unemployment last week. They are overwhelmed. So people don't have money. You sleeping on, and I'm just using this example now. I'm not condoning, I'm just saying stop being so uber critical and hyper judgmental. Because if I'm sleeping on tattered sheets and I'm walking out of here and a man got a whole mannequin, and I'm looking right there and there's some sheets, I might just reach my hand in there and get those sheets. Because everybody else is benefiting. I'm not saying it's right. But I'm saying when you die of thirst, you'll drink from a mud hole. That is what I am saying to you. And we have our people who are dying of thirst. I days on my birthday fundraiser for the Chocolate Mint Foundation. I wanted to donate to her food pantry. You all have been extraordinary. You have donated. Please continue to donate because she sent me the video this morning. Someone stole their truck. They had a van. They were actually making some deliveries to certain people. Some black men, because I tell you all the time, all black folks ain't good, all white folks ain't bad. 2 black men stole their truck. They tried to give to the needy, and they take from them. So I am certainly not saying that black people are not complicit in it, but we need to look at the bigger picture. And before we start to vilify our own, let's try to keep our messages close to the vest that we are supporting. And I know it's embarrassing. That sister's watching it in North Carolina. She's part of the movement. She believes that these injustices are atrocities, and we all trying to figure out what our next move should be. And then some color folks go running across the stage and run across the camera, stealing. So that's embarrassing. And it's embarrassing because you bear the black tax. I'm not suggesting that you're supposed to feel one way or another, but I know what it's like to be embarrassed by black people. You know, but don't lose sight. You know, old folks say keep your eye on the prize. Don't lose sight of what we're trying to accomplish. Stay vigilant to the cause, because right now they are attempting to completely decapitate our mission. They tried it with the riots, the building burning, the looting. Even though we saw a white woman in Neiman Marcus just taking everything and stuffing it into her bag. And you know what the media said? Because I tell you, this hysteric propaganda. You know what she said? I don't know if this lady works here. It's hard to know if she works. She don't work there. She's a thief. She's stealing. She, ma'am, is the epitome, the definition of looting. You want to see looting? Better white. Please turn the board. She was looting, but that's not what the little white girl said on the camera. I told y'all, I'm going to show you this video. The video is of a cop standing there watching these people tag the bills with BLM. So we need to stop. We need to regroup. I saw on social media somebody was calling for to build our own network so that they don't have control and power. And she was saying she's capable. Black lady was saying she was capable of doing it. She was already working on it, but she needed money. So that's something I got to investigate. I don't know this woman. I don't even know if it's possible. My mind is so scattered at this point because I cannot believe this whole introduction to martial law that I'm still grappling with it. And I'm just talking to you because it's cathartic for me to have these conversations with you all because I vibe off of your energy. And I need you guys to help me get through this. And I hope that we have some reciprocity between us and that I'm also helping you. I hope my voice helps your voice be heard. I am stunned and taken completely aback because I was looking at the messaging of stars. I'm looking at these white supremacist groups, then Antifa, and the ACLU said Antifa should not be labeled as a terrorist as it is a domestic organization. But Black Lives Matters is labeled as a terrorist organization. Even the people that's supposed to help us don't help us. So I don't know what we're going to do. Look at the bags under my eyes, y'all. I have not slept. I've been crying. I am just, I'm at a loss. Because, the world as we know it is changing. This is New World Order. For those of you that know what that means, they are implementing New World Order. This is the effectuation of it. And one of those steps is, in fact, martial law. So I want y'all to be safe. I want you to grab your babies and hug them. I don't care if your baby is 45. You grab and hug your babies. You hold them close. Y'all start getting a plan together. If you have to hunker down, whose house are you going to? Go to somebody's house, got a deep freezer, so that y'all can stockpile food. I mean, I feel like they're about to try to treat us like Hitler did the Jews. And with that being said, I'm saying get ready, get ready, get ready. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you. I am, phew, I'm just trying to get it all through my mind. I want to be able to help you, guide you, but I don't really know the path. But I do know we need to stop protesting. And some people out there like, what? Stop protesting? I'm fearful of the outcome, and I'm not sure if we're going to get our desired result. Let me say this as well. July 7th is Blackout Day. I am going to participate. However, I just want you to keep in mind that that day they're asking Black people throughout this nation not to buy one single thing to demonstrate the power of our $3.9 trillion uh, dollars towards the GDP annually. But here's the thing. Truthfully, corporations, even small companies, mom and pops, they don't really look at their budget day to day. They look at weekly outcomes of their budget, net, and then their profits. They're looking at that. They're looking at it monthly. I'm sorry, um, monthly, quarterly, and annually. They really don't look at it weekly unless it's a very small shop and they're struggling, which many companies and organizations are because of COVID-19. So I'm not sure. I'm not saying don't do it. I just want to have a conversation realistically about the impact of it. I'm not sure we're going to get the desired result that we're seeking because um, we're going to typically, if you need to buy gas or you need to go to the grocery store, you go the day before or the day after to pay homage to the 7th, but they still got those weekly profits and certainly that monthly revenue. So participate, but then let's start trying to find ways to make a delineated line from our dollars to our actions. But I am encouraging everyone to participate. Uh, yeah, I'm really devastated. I'm trying to hold it together. Okay, so just take a step back and regroup. I want you to be safe. We still don't have a lack of testing for COVID testing. We still don't know enough about it. They're talking about vaccine. And let me say this, as far as the vaccine is concerned, if they implement martial law, everybody will have to take it. You won't be able to have that waiver. For those of you that know what I mean, that are not giving your kids all the vaccines. You don't have to be an extremist or an anti-vaccinist. Um, but those of you know what I'm saying, most states have a waiver of conscious or religious reasons, and you can waive certain vaccinations or all vaccinations. If it's military law, you won't be able to do that come fall 2020. So those of you that pray, and I know it's not all y'all. I have people telling me all the time they don't believe in God. And we're going to pray for you. Bless your heart. But those of you that do pray, please pray, because this is a very serious time. This is beyond the brevity and scope of what we were trying to accomplish with having the acknowledgement of our humanity recognized. The other thing is that if you are a person that communes with the spirits, the ancestors, whatever your thing is, get to calling on folks. If Jesus is your man, call him. If your grandmama is your person, call them, because this is very serious. Okay. Y'all let me know what you're thinking. Share, tell your friends, don't go out there. They've got bricks set up. It's a setup, and you're smarter than they think you are. So let's take a step back. Let's revamp, let's review, and then let's renew. Okay? Let's revamp, review, and renew. Okay, I just made that up on the fly. And then let's have conversations about what we think we should do. Real conversations, okay? I'm going to reach out to some community leaders that I know. I know that Jesua Robo, who here in Dallas City is the chairman of the community oversight review board that used to be the police review board, and they changed the name and it has more teeth. They have subpoena power. They have been stopped from meeting by TC Broadnax, who is a Black man, an alpha at that. So he's Jesua Robo's frat brother. But he's a pitiful little man. I think he was the dude that got shoved in the lockers in school. Clearly, he was not an athlete. He's probably one of those that's academically wants to punish everybody because he wasn't treated fairly during puberty or something. Because he's just he's mean spirited, and if it's not his idea, it's not a good one. And he has decided that they can't meet. He's given all these excuses. They use WebEx in the city. He's not allowing them to meet. They're trying to meet. And, one of the beliefs is they could stomp out some of these things that are going on in Dallas if the community could come out and express the way they feel and start talking about policy changes with the community to make sure that, we don't have a George Floyd. But TC Broadnex won't allow it to happen. Maybe I'll post his number and y'all call him, tell him what you think about that. So, sometimes it's our own people that are stopping us from progress. So then we need to make moves on them to get them out of office. But before we start a plan against anybody, let's take a step back and figure out our next moves, since they are shutting down these protests. And let's see what this martial law looks like. Now, I am not saying that you're going to be restricted to your house tomorrow. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying I believe this is the introduction to ease us into it, to change our way of life the same way they did for 9/11, to make, we started making other people feel very uncomfortable. So we were provoking a conversation, and then they watered that conversation down. I believe that the protest still has legs. I believe the movement is still very spry. I believe we've got momentum in the movement, but we just have to be smart about it. And y'all know I'm a protester. So I am not saying don't protest. I don't believe it. In fact, I was talking about my mom today, and we were talking about the first time I protested, my mother was telling me what to do. She was explaining to me, because she was a protester of the 50s and the 60s, and she was explaining to me how to protest and to how to watch out for the dogs and what to do, and if they went and got the water hose, how to turn my back, don't let them spray me, because the water hose, when the firemen release the water, is so forceful that it will tear your skin off of your body. And she was like, let it do to your back, not your face. So I'm not new to it, I'm true to it. But I also care deeply about you all. I care about this movement. I care about the fact that they are killing us in our homes, in our cars, on the street. I care about the fact that somebody can say something about you and the police can then come get you and justify your murder. I care about the fact that we can't jog, we can't breathe, we can't sell water, we can't barbecue, we can't be in swimming pools, we can't do anything. And then we can't get the people that need to be elected. Let me say this. Well, I have your attention, please. Right now in Dallas, and I know I talk about Dallas, that's where I live. Y'all tell me what's going on. Y'all used to tell me what was going on in other places, and I would talk about that. Right now, we got to raise Jasmine Crockett. She claims to be a civil rights attorney. I'm not saying she's not. I've never had to use her. I don't know anyone that has, but that does not mean she's not a civil rights attorney. I know that she and Lee were partners for a while. They had a business divorce, but now he's endorsed her for District 100. The problem I have with that is that I had the displeasure of meeting Jasmine Crockett because she launched a complete smear campaign, and those were her words, against Simone Redwine. I think it was some jealousy. I think she thought it was something going on between Simone and Lee, and I'm just gonna put that out there. That's what I think happened. I think that's why she was hating on Simone the way she was. But she lied on her, demeaned her, besmirched her name. It was really character assassination, and it rose to the really to the definition of defamation of character. She made references to Simone being a drug addict, and then likened her to the previous DA, Susan Hawk, who was addicted and was going through some, well, let's say, I don't know if she was really addicted as much as she said she had mental health issues, but she was on prescription drugs. Okay, that's how they phrased it. So, but then they said Craig Watkins, who was the district attorney, wasn't drunk. Dallas people know what I'm talking about. Let me get past that so that I can pull everybody in, because people listen to this show from all over. Jasmine Crockett is running against Lorraine Billable. She is the sitting state representative for the Texas legislature. She was elected during a special election because The person that had held that seat is now the mayor of Dallas. Now, the mayor of Dallas has said, let Jason Robo's committee or board uh, work. It's the city manager that won't. I just want to put that out there. So the manager seems to understand what's going on here. However, we run into roadblocks with our own people. Now, Jasmine Crockett. Any black woman that says she's for civil rights that would tear down a black woman, not only was she not civil, but she didn't afford that girl any rights. Just normal rights and privileges that you acknowledge between human beings. She wasn't even cordial. Like, it was never a hello, a greeting or a salutation. She attacked her with everything. And this whole thing that Jasmine was running, when you had Kim Cooks, Sandra Moncrief, who is running for another court now, attacked Kim. She ran against Kim. Black woman against black woman. Leandria something was running against Andrea Markwell. She's Andrea Lane now. And they were mean, they were hateful, they were mean-spirited. They were tied to the philosophy of Jasmine Crockett. She is not going to the state legislature. I'm gonna start calling these people out. Y'all tell me who they are. I will research them, and if their name needs to be called out loud, guarantee I'll do it. I'm not new to it. I'm true to it. And my grandmother said that the truth doesn't care who tells it. And what I cannot have is fear when it comes to you and your rights. We have to put the right people in office. This when your neighbors be renting it, not owning it. See how I did that? I need to stop. I'm part of the problem. So I'm saying that to wrap up, if you're in District 100, you want Lorraine. Lorraine does daily COVID updates. Jasmine, the last thing I saw that she did, she was trying to do speed dating online. So she's using her campaign to find her a man. Lord of mercy. Okay. I even made myself laugh there a little bit, so I feel a teeny little better. Okay, y'all. I love y'all. I want y'all to stay safe. I want you to stay healthy. We've got a lot we're trying to combat right now, but we are a people who have overcome so many things. The same people who built the pyramids, who walked out of Egypt, who walked into the Civil Rights Act of 1963 and then 1965. We can do this too. 2020 doesn't have to be about them. It can be about you. It can be about me. It can be about the upliftment of our people. Because I believe it's time to stop saying, someday we shall overcome. Today we have overcome. I believe that it is not a change gonna come. I believe the change has come. Because I told you, it was a sea of white people that were there with their fist in the air. I'm telling you, it's 50 states that were protesting George Floyd's murder. Alaska and Hawaii, the lower 48. So we are right there. We're on the precipice of something, and they want to be the antithesis of everything that is good in us. You melanated people, stay strong, stay beautiful, stay powerful. We're going to figure some things out. All right, this is Coy with your black tea sip. I had to come in here and rapportate with you because I was feeling all kinds of things. I just need to commune with y'all for a little while. We'll talk again soon. If not before Friday, we'll certainly have the black tea sip on June 5th. Y'all stay strong out there, okay? Stay safe. I love you. Diamonds, pearls, and Jerry curls, and we'll do it again in a minute.